Welcome to episode 623 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and since I started this podcast 7 years ago, there have not been many vibes better than the ones that Kool-Aids were able to feel today against Bayern Munich. It is a Champions League night, and Barcelona went out and they proved that they can contend this season, 2024-2025, for a Champions League trophy. That is the kind of statement game that this game was. We're going to recap all of it here in the 5 headlines. I want to thank everybody first who joined me on the YouTube preview show on the YouTube channel. And then at 3 p.m., everybody hopped over to Big Up with the tactics board, with the scoreboard, with all the graphics and fun stuff we have over there, and join me on that feed as well. So you can subscribe on Big Up so that you know I'm going live. For the watch-alongs, you can subscribe on YouTube. That's a big help. And then for those always listening with the podcast in their ears, thank you so much for always helping me continue to make these shows, as do my Patreons. We're over on Patreon for as low as $3, and you can become a guest with a microphone and a camera or just a microphone on the watch-alongs if you're a Patreon, and sometimes I'll let others in as well. Or you can also get these shows without the ads over on Patreon. So again, thank you so much to my Patreons to keep helping me make these shows. The last thing real quick, because I know I probably have more people who usually don't subscribe or come to the channel. A, subscribe, and B, if you also want to help the show and get something out of it, down in the description or the show notes, I also have the store. That is the Barcelona Podcast store on Teespring. So you can get some merch and help me out. That is also a way to directly support the podcast. All right, so with all that support, I know you support me, especially when Barcelona are winning. So let's do it. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 4-1 victory. Let me say that again. Barcelona's 4-1 victory over Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Headline 1 is like a bat out of Brazil. Of course, Brazil is not the word that's used in that expression, but that's where Raphinha was. He came out of the gate absolutely firing, as did Barcelona. The first minute, the tone of this match was set at home. 54 seconds in, to be exact. It's Lewandowski holding the ball up well. That is going to be a theme that we are going to talk about throughout this match review. I'm going to bring the tactics board out nice and early here. You remember in that last matchup against Sevilla, I talked about our little circle of fun. I need to figure out a better term for this. People can leave those in the comments or hit me up on social media if you're listening on the podcast. This little circle of fun that Barcelona has, where if they're able to win the 50-50s, if they're able to win the second ball here, they can be off to the races, and very vertically, they can take a high risk, high pass, or high percentage pass, if you will. So Lewandowski dropped in, as you see here. Pedri was supporting him, and we also want to bring Balde up here a little bit more. Instead of the easy ball that Lewandowski could have played to Pedri, instead, Lewandowski plays a more difficult ball, and very much like Sevilla again, Fort is, in this case, Fermin Lopez. You get the point. So Fermin Lopez, then instead of going back safely to Pedri, or even trying to go all the way back to Inigo Martinez or Peña because Bayern Munich were pressing, Lewandowski instead goes to Fermin Lopez. And then, just like I spoke about in the preview, it was into the half space. There goes Raphinha. And that is what Barcelona did so well today when they made a numerical overload somewhere in the middle of the field. Lewandowski, Pedri, Casadó was there at times, or if even Lamine Yamal had come over into the middle, which he did. That meant Koundé then had to come a little wide, and then Barcelona were defending narrow in their rest defense. But either way, for the first goal, it was Lewandowski going with a risky pass instead of the easy pass, and then it was Raphinha off to the races for that first goal. And as expected too in that preview, there were going to be times when Upamecano, if Lewandowski was able to pull him out and Keem was in the wrong position, because I think positionally Keem did not have a great day, if those two center backs are out of position, that means that Kimmich was going to be the deepest player for Bayern Munich, which he was in this instance. And with Kimmich the deepest, he misplayed it. Raphinha played off his shoulder with the run. He had plenty of time, almost too much time, in a 1v1 against Neuer, but he has been in great form this season. Really composed finish against the German goalkeeper. 54 seconds into the game, that means that Barcelona has now scored their second earliest goal in the Champions League after one by Mark van Bommel back in 2005, which came 36 seconds in. I'm going to be talking a little bit about those history stats because Barcelona made a lot of history today against Bayern Munich and the Champions League at large. Headline 2 is Bayern's answer. An elite team like Bayern Munich were not going to take that goal lightly, and they did answer. They almost had the 1-1, but no, it was offside. It was Elise out to Muller and Kane on the shoulder of Kubarsi. but not really. Actually, when you saw the replay, he was definitely offside. But actually, then you saw the other replay, and it was Balde that almost kept in on. That was way, way closer than I thought. But Barcelona able to escape from that first 1-1. And when I was trying to diagnose, as there was still 1-0, Barcelona were on the back foot. Bayern Munich answered, they responded, their high press was working, they were cutting down space, and they were winning balls. And this is the one concern about starting Fermin Lopez in this kind of game. He showed you in the first 20 minutes, A, why he started, and B, why I think Hansi Flick, if Dani Olmo was 90 minutes available, he probably would not have started. Because while he gives you a lot of energy on the press, while he can force a difficult ball, if Bayern Munich is composed enough on the ball and can bypass the first line of that press for Barcelona, which they didn't always do today, but if they're able to do that, then Barcelona can be in a world of hurt and they're unable to take the ball back if they're not winning those 50-50s. And unlike when Raphinha played as a number 10 against Sevilla, Fermin Lopez does not win enough of those 50-50s. So I thought Barcelona, I'm not putting it all on him, but they also just were not winning it on any part of the field. And so they had no control in the first 15 minutes. I wrote this down in the 16th minute of this match, and put a pin in this one in your brain because we're going to repeat it later. In the 16th minute, Pedri had 5 touches, Casadó had 3, and Fermin had just 1 touch. 16 minutes into the game, that was just the assist. That was the only touch that Fermin Lopez had had. So with all that said, being overrun in the midfield, the press for Bayern Munich was clicking, it was working, and they were hungry, and those diagonals were coming off fairly easy because Koundé then had to move farther into the center of the field, and he was getting double teamed then with Davies and Gnabry out wide. So someone was available because Kubarsi needed a little bit of help because Bayern Munich were also overloading with Muller that right side. So that pulled and shifted everybody to the right. And then Koundé was getting split. And Koundé, it's hard to guard 2 players. And he was still, I thought, good positionally, but that diagonal for the 1-1 to Gnabry, it was a really good first touch by Gnabry, and then the cross into Kane on the back post against Inigo Martinez. It's a hard finish, too. Like, I'm not blaming Inaki Peña here. It was a volley from Kane that goes back across his goal, and it's the 1-1. But it wasn't just the goal for Bayern Munich that kind of scared me in that moment. It's just how on the front foot Bayern Munich were and how Barcelona were not taking any control of the match because they weren't winning any of their 50-50s. Headline 3, a different Barcelona. Now, unlike European nights past that I've been through many, many times for the last 7 years, for the last 8 years, whatever it is, it feels like too long, that Barcelona, when they get punched in the mouth on a European night, they've been unable to take that breath and respond. But Hansi Flick's Barcelona is a different Barcelona. And even tactically, there was a moment after that goal was scored by Bayern Munich that Barcelona could have wilted, but they didn't. They took a breath and they responded for a number of different reasons. They got much better then by the 21st minute. Barcelona were able to attack a little bit better with more purpose. Davies, Upamecano had to make those last ditch tackles, but Barcelona, they were in a really good spot then, taking control back in the match. 26th minute, space for Raphinha on the wing, finds Lewandowski in the middle. The long shot goes wide, but still Barcelona, I think, gaining confidence at that point. They won the first corner in the 28th minute. And the 2 big reasons for this, and obviously you know who the man of the match is, he scored a hat trick, but my 3 secondary men of the match, Lewandowski, Pedri, Casadó, were excellent from the 20th minute on. Superb. And why Barcelona won this game 4-1. Raphinha scored the hat trick, was on the receiving end of the hard work, the stage that was being set by Lewandowski, by Pedri, by Casadó. Then the ball was moving forward to Lamine Yamal, to Fermin Lopez. And then Raphinha was the man to finish it all off, which really, because goals are the difference in a game, is the biggest part of the job, that if you don't do that, then none of the rest of it matter. But as I said, when Barcelona turned this around, let's talk Lewandowski. He was excellent with his back to goal from the 20th minute on. And I think it really settled the team down. A lot of experience in Champions League matches that Barcelona just had not been able to reap the rewards from in recent seasons from Lewandowski. But his terrific hold-up play, pulling out Upamecano, pulling out Keem, making Kimmich second guess where those other runners were going to come in behind because Lewandowski was unbalancing that back line. And the second part of that is Casadó winning those 50-50s a lot more and getting a bit more involved in the match. And once Casadó kind of found the game, his tackles were there. And even though he wasn't happy a lot, I thought he was going to yellow for dissent today. A lot of frustration from the whistle from the referee for Casadó, but yet he still was undeterred, winning those second balls. And then Pedri's ball retention, essential to calming Barcelona down as well. And when Barcelona switched their fortunes, so came the second goal. Fermin off the back shoulder of Keem. People are going to say you don't like Barcelona, and even maybe some Barcelona fans. I think I've done enough for my credibility here on the channel to say that this is definitely not a foul. I just don't think it was enough contact with the arm to put Keem off from Fermin Lopez. I think that Fermin Lopez was always on the other side of it. That ball was always going to get over Keem. And then Fermin Lopez flicks it past Neuer, still had to compose himself at that point, flicks it past Neuer over to Lewandowski for the tap in. Also want to give credit here, Lamine Yamal playing the ball over the top. Excellent Lamine Yamal from deeper positions today. I want to make sure every time he had one of those moments, I give him credit here. Now Lewandowski scores against the former club in Bayern Munich. That's 3 goals in 3 Champions League games so far this season, and 15 goals in 13 games in all competitions for Robert Lewandowski this season. The Robert Renaissance is on in full effect, and he earned his goal with his hard work, far from the goal that he was supposed to score on. Jumping ahead then to the third goal as well, Marc Casadó, I praised his ball winning when Barcelona didn't have the ball, helped them find this match again. But what a ball, Marc Casadó. Take a stand for your applause here. He won the ball, so he did the thing we expect him to do, took the space, dribbled forward, the thing that, De Jong would start over him because he does that so well. Then he delivered an absolute dime on the diagonal ball to Raphinha. And Raphinha, playing with the confidence that he is, I don't think he has ever had this kind of confidence before. Even when he was a talisman for Leeds United, there were a lot of times in those matches when things got helter-skelter. Remember, his team didn't win a lot of matches at that time. So, he was a guy to help them stay up in a relegation race. But no, he's playing for a team that's winning matches with a ton of confidence. And I don't think he's ever played with that kind of confidence. So this is a player now with Raphinha. When he first arrived, taking guys one-on-one, that was one thing. And while it isn't his game, he still can do it at times. And when he saw Rafael Guerrero in front of him, he saw a defender that is not actually a defender. He's kind of a winger, and he had no shot against him. Raphinha gets his brace at that point. It's 8 goals at that point and 8 assists this season, becoming the first player to score 2 goals in the first half of a Champions League game against Bayern Munich since Neymar did it in May of 2015. And the other stat here, Fermin Lopez, a little bit of youthful stuff. I gave you my criticism of him, but a reminder that he's still only 21. He can still improve on the press. He can still improve in winning 50-50s. He's the youngest player to provide 2 assists for Barcelona in a Champions League match since Isaac Cuenca did it in 2011 against Bate Borisov of Belarus, which is a different level in the Champions League to do it against Bayern Munich. Raphinha and Fermin Lopez, I said there was history to be made, and they were. And that stat about the touches, I told you to remember. Let's circle back on that. In the 45th minute, when the first half ended, remember, Pedri had just 5 touches, and Casadó had 3 in the 16th minute. But jumping ahead now to the 45th, Pedri had 31 touches, and Casadó had 26, telling you that they were then on the ball and taking control of that match. Headline 4 is October 23rd is Raphinha Day. This is the moment for Raphinha. This is the biggest moment, I think, in his career. A hat-trick in the Champions League against Bayern Munich. It doesn't get any better than that. Both teams did have chances in the second half to cause them first blood, and 3-2 looks a whole lot different than 4-1 does. But 4-1 comes, Lamine Yamal on the assist, another absurd ball from Lamine Yamal. And when I said about my men of the match, I talked about Raphinha. I said Lewandowski, Casadó, and Pedri changed the way the Barcelona are playing. Lamine Yamal, he made these goals happen with those assists. He brought the second defender like we kept talking about. The reason Raphinha had so much space was because, again, Lewandowski was dropping in, but Lamine Yamal was always a threat, especially with the horizontal field as opposed to just the vertical field. You have to worry about Lamine Yamal creating space from the touchline, coming inside horizontally as well as getting vertical, and using his passing, his elite passing for verticality. So another absurd ball from Lamine Yamal, and what a touch on the chest from Raphinha to bring that one down, push it ahead of Keem, and then it's a foot race that Raphinha is going to win. He had Neuer's number as well today on the hat-trick, of course. Lewandowski again dropping in, and Upamecano and Keem not knowing what to do with him, not knowing where to be off one another with Lewandowski. This is going to be a tough film session if Vincent Kompany even decides to watch this film. It's going to be a tough day for Upamecano and Keem because they got caught by Fermin Lopez, Raphinha, Lamine Yamal, and Kimmich as well. The movement from the front four from Barcelona is something that Bayern Munich did not contend well with. And speaking of Kompany, throwing everything at the wall there in the 59th minute, bringing on the 4 subs, the cavalry, Sané, Goretzka, Coman, and Musiala, down 4-1, maybe even in the 59th, made those changes a little bit too late. And maybe that is a case of, I had somebody really expertly say it in the watch along on Big Up, that this felt like a case, especially in the second half, of a rather inexperienced team. Now, again, Lewandowski was one of the best players. Raphinha is not an inexperienced player, but it did feel like, of course, when you have a 17-year-old in Kubarsi, you have a 17-year-old in Lamine Yamal, you have a 21-year-old in Fermin Lopez and a 21-year-old in Balde. In theory, it is still a European inexperienced team for Barcelona with an experienced manager who has been there before against a team that was very experienced in Bayern Munich in these kind of big moments in Champions League nights with a rather inexperienced manager for these moments in Vincent Kompany. And that duality I thought was really interesting. And when I say duality, I just mean the juxtaposition of the two teams and how they seem to be opposites in that way. I found that really interesting. And Hansi Flick then showed you there with this fifth headline that he had the experience to close this match out. Because headline 5 is Let the Demons Die, I have used this term about the European demons since Roma in 2017. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired in Europe. And then 2018 in Liverpool. And then 8-2 in Bayern Munich. And when I say let the demons die, this season, 24-25, might be the moment now to let those European demons die. And what I mean by that is they won, that being Barcelona, making a statement with a deep team now that's looking deeper as they get healthier, if they can keep everybody healthy. So stay healthy and look like you are a European contender for that trophy. And that is what a 4-win against Bayern Munich does for you. Closing out this match, in the last 30 minutes, they not to went in cruise control, but to the point that Bayern Munich on their press, it works well because it's high risk, high reward, just like Barcelona's high line. It's high risk, high reward. And Bayern Munich took similar risks that Barcelona did. That's why it was so nervy for Barcelona fans, because it is high risk, high reward. But they're the ones who got the high reward today because they were just better with the ball at their feet. They were better at taking advantage of space, and they were the better team in winning the midfield from the 20th minute on in the game. Again, the 61st minute, not that Barcelona were in cruise control, but they were confidently up 4-1, and that confidence permeated to the bench. De Jong on for Fermin Lopez. Then 67th minute, I just wrote in my notes, Pedri, wow, because Pedri kept the ball in a way. Just that little moment, that pirouette, that gave me the confidence to know that Barcelona were going to close out this game. They were going to win this game, even though it was still the 67th minute. 75th minute, standing ovation, a deserved standing ovation for Raphinha. On comes Dani Olmo. As I said, the biggest moment of Raphinha's career. And Olmo coming on didn't make Barcelona any worse. He's coming back from an injury, yes, but he came back to a game that had a lot of space for him. He almost fed Lamine Yamal, almost fed Lewandowski for what could have been the 5th goal on each of those getting an occasion. Then the 85th minute, Ansu Fati, Gavi, and Pau Victor on to finish out the match, on for Lamine Yamal, Pedri, and Lewandowski, who also all got the proper applause that they deserve for just a fantastic game. The best game for Pedri in Europe? I say that with a question mark, but maybe you could give me another example. Is this best Pedri game? Maybe yes for finishing product, but for Lewandowski, was this his best European night for Barcelona? And I don't mean to say that because I know he had the hat trick last season and he's been good. He was good against Napoli, that being Lewandowski as well. But to do this against Bayern Munich, and it's that extra step up where you're going, Lewandowski and Pedri did this against Bayern Munich. Lamine Yamal did this against Bayern Munich. I give them the credit that they deserve because they have been a thorn in Barcelona's side. And they have been the demons that Barcelona had to exercise to feel like they could win a Champions League trophy, which is how I feel now. There was a late scare with Casadó on knee-to-knee collision. He finished the match. Seems all right. That's a good thing. Usually that luck doesn't feel like it goes Barcelona's way. The stats here are what's incredible to me. The XG in this game, Barcelona XG 1.5. They scored 4 goals. And for Bayern Munich, it was 1. They scored 1 goal. Possession was 40-60 in favor of Bayern Munich. Shots were +1 for Barcelona. The passes, Bayern Munich had almost 200 more passes than Barcelona in this game. And the fouls were 11-10. But those 200, almost 200 extra passes that Bayern Munich had didn't do them any good because Barcelona had a plan. They know how to find the space. They trust each other. And I said that little circle where good things happen. It only takes 2 or 3 touches. And then Barcelona able to find that space against another team that's going to play a high line because they have the skill and the confidence and the ability to do so. Raphinha has raised his level. This under Hansi Flick is Raphinha that I didn't even know was possible. Like, this is the ceiling. It feels like Hansi Flick is getting the very best out of Raphinha. I think to expect that this is the player that Barcelona were signing even 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago is incredible to me. This shows that Barcelona can win a Champions League trophy. And as we preview El Clasico, I might even have to do an extra podcast. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet, but I know for certain at 2:30 p.m. East Coast time, that being 8:30 p.m. Barcelona time, you can expect on YouTube, there's going to be a live stream preview for El Clasico, and then we're going to jump right over to Big Up for the watch along. And that, again, is going to be 3 p.m. East Coast time on Saturday for El Clasico, which, having seen and watched that 5-2 Real Madrid, 5 goals in the second half against Borussia Dortmund with that Real Madrid mentality, and then Barcelona showing today that they don't necessarily have to win the stats. Like I even felt like they had to in Europe in years past. They can actually not win all the statistical categories and still be not only the better team, but a dominant team that puts 4 past the quality opponent in Bayern Munich. I feel like I don't want this 5 headlines to end. When it's a good time, I just kind of want to soak it all in. But if you don't want those good times to end, especially for me on the channel, so I can really dedicate more time to this, again, the merch store is a big help, as well as Patreon, but also just subscribing, giving a like, sharing my channel. And I see people tell me that I deserve a lot more than 20,000 subscribers. So yeah, help me out. Share this, whether it's on Reddit and other communities for Barcelona. And again, even tell other community members of Barcelona, those big creators or whatever, let them know I have a podcast and I would love to have them on and have more discussions about a team that is winning and doing well right now. So the team has helped us enjoy this season so far. You helped me continue this, and I do appreciate everything as far as I can give this Barcelona community. So as always, until next time, Forza Barça.